Hello and welcome back to Rock Raiders and some more news discussion. Today we're going to be talking about a few big topics like the fact that they're considering buffing Ark in general, or rather trying to escalate PvE, which is a big topic in itself. Other information came out though, like the fact that Ark Raiders was considering an auction house system, as well as a rebalance of course to the skill tree, because there's a lot of skills that are basically never chosen and for good reason. Not to mention some sort of custom loadout system in the future, since it takes a bit of time to load up. It's an important mechanic in any extraction shooter, to be honest. So lots to look at, let's talk about it. Starting with the big one, which is buffing PvE. This comes from the interview that happened with Virgil Watkins, that design lead for Embark, and a lot of different information came out of the talks that Games Radar had with him. So one of the popular gameplay loops referenced, in fact, by Virgil, is the fact that, what you'll do is you'll go in and kill a queen or matriarch, or actually, more reasonably, you'll go in with a cheap loadout to target parts of it to knock those off, then get the reactors and parts that allow you to craft the weapons from those targets. Then you're able to craft the special weapons such as the equalizer that strip those parts off really quick and again de-aggro, loot, leave. You don't even have to kill the queen to get these things. And it is a satisfying and fun gameplay loop, but it's one that they're very aware players are doing a lot more these days. He said that I think eventually if we introduce yet another six-legged giant spidery robot, it's definitely got to change. They want those experiences in the future to be something different or something additional, seeing how they can escalate that experience for the PvE side of things. But it's not just the Queen and Matriarch aspect that we're talking about here. You think about Ark in general, as cool and unique as they are, I would say most of them, at least in my experience, are a bit of a joke now. And while I definitely enjoy how much I understand the Ark and can do some really cool things because of it, it definitely has taken away the challenge of the game of the Ark. And a lot of players are playing primarily PvE now, using aggression matchmaking to their advantage and avoiding PvP completely, where you would get that continuous threat. And in the conversation about aggression matchmaking, they talked about the very fact that they want PvP to serve as that random threat. The loot you've got could be stolen from you. There's always the threat of the other raiders. You might have a positive experience with them, you might have a negative one. And with the way that the aggression matchmaking system is right now, you can get into ultra-friendly lobbies and make it incredibly rare that anyone attacks you. Then you think about the Ark and how they're largely solved and not that threatening anymore. And then you end up with what is not a very threatening or unique experience raid to raid. So they're aware of these things, from the matchmaking to also the Ark behavior and how we deal with them now. Watkins stated that as they've seen players have got more advanced with the game, they become more sophisticated in their approach. They understand how to play better against these threats. So the threats have become, well, less threatening. They've figured out the attack patterns completely and how to avoid them. So I think continuing to escalate that is where we're looking at growing next. But there is actually a challenge in massive bosses and super difficult experiences. They want something that's practical, but also is obviously fun. Practically, they're worried about blowing up the server with mechanics of an Ark. Can they actually support some of the crazy ambitious things they're thinking of? They don't say anything crazy massive is going to happen anytime soon, but when it comes to the giant walking ones in the background and so on, we want some contrast compared to before as we go forward. So what we might see sooner is variance. To quote Watkins, he says we use the term variance, but it's like, what does this look like with an adjustment to an attack pattern, or a weapon loadout for the Ark, new armor, things like that. Can we create distinct gameplay changes while using the platforms we have, but trying to avoid, it's now just a blue wasp, there it is. So they're being careful about that. Simple variants are still going to have their place, but we want to make sure they're serving a new and important purpose in the ecosystem. Interestingly, in a passing mention, he mentioned shredders and how they're currently only on Stellamontis, which definitely sounds like they will be on other maps. And actually, when we had the shredders revealed in the patch notes about them, it said initially or will begin on Stellamontis. So yes, it's still very likely that shredders will appear on other maps, which will be interesting. Personally, I think PvE definitely needs to become more difficult. I think the idea of variance, so you could have a bastion with a totally different weapon and movement pattern, different weaknesses. So when you go to that bastion spawn, it might be one of multiple kinds of bastions that spawn, and that will change your approach. What kind of weapons are going to be relevant there? You'll have to be flexible. It won't just be a straightforward experience. That's a great start. and hopefully the kind of thing that we could see in the game before long. One of the biggest draws for the game for me is the arc and the interactions with them, the experiences we have with them. So I like that they're prioritizing that. Something they're not prioritizing then is an auction house or trade system. At least not in a generic auction house way. Interestingly, an auction house system was somewhat built during the development of the game, but they removed it. But there's still ambition to make trading a more fun and social part of the game, so trading could be a thing. I mean, right now, it's basically loading into a raid with a friend and dropping a blueprint or a key item to them, one or two at a time, and that's it. The CEO, Soderlund, actually mentioned this a while back, in December, that they should do more with the trading part of the game, and to actually make it something that's more possible for players to do, since it's a fun idea. But they have to be very careful long term, because obviously it greatly affects the experience of the player. So that was referenced and continued on by Watkins in the Games Radar interview. So they're not building an auction house or anything like that. Currently, it's more leaning into the aspect of social facilitation in the sense of their design. One thing we really want to do, and may still try to do, it's fine to trade by dropping things on the floor and picking it up, but we want to have an offer where you hold out an item and someone then interacts with that thing in your hand to take it from you, just to make it a bit more organic. Definitely a small thing that feels better, where an auction house by comparison is very risky territory, as Watkins said. It could undermine the core gameplay loops, where you need to go to certain areas to get specific items, you need to do specific crafting to get specific items, there are things that are just simply inaccessible. And trading would make that accessible in an easy, straightforward way via coins and so on. This then makes those activities where you would get those items less uniquely worthwhile. And if everything boils down to gold or coins per hour, it's no good. They've put a very deliberate effort into making the game about items, so they want to stick to that, I would sim. So in the nearby future, I would expect then some sort of built-in gesture or emote, or like you could right-click an item and offer in trade or something, letting someone interact with you in a physical way and take it from you, instead of dropping items at each other's feet. Not much of a difference, but will be a nice change. And at very least, will be their first update to the trading system. And clearly they're thinking about how could they do something with that wouldn't ruin the economy and player experience. I like the idea of it. I'm not sure what way they're going to go with it, but it would be cool if you could go to a specific location and hand in, say, this item today to get this item in exchange. That would then force you to go find an item you might otherwise not have a lot of. Since there's a lot of items we don't sit in our stash because we just recycle them or sell them. You need to go find one of those if you want to trade it for like a guaranteed magnetic accelerator or something. We'll see. In regards then to the skill tree and the changes coming to that, yes, that's been acknowledged. Again, Virgil Watkins talked about this in an interview. Player testing has found that several skills have an indiscernible impact on gameplay, and basically they're not impactful at all, as well as plenty that are just unloved skills that are not used. And that buffs are, quote, 100% on our radar. Even internally, Watkins says that they're skills that he would never choose. He's not going to pretend that that's not the case. There's definitely going to be some things that change again. He can't say when or in what nature, but yeah, they're acknowledging it, which is a great thing. They can't make skills too good, especially with the way expeditions work. But as we talked about in a recent update video I made, they're also not going to be giving us more skill points every expedition. In fact, that's something we should expect to be phased out pretty quick. There's a lot of people who thought they'd slowly let us get to like level 100 and stop it there, and maybe they will. Or maybe they'll leave us at 85 or 90. It's whatever they want to do. But they're not going to give us more and more points every expedition. They've made that clear. But in the current state of things, what would 5 or 10 more points really do? Not a lot. It would allow me to get everything I want to, and then also be down for longer and move for longer while I'm down, have a couple more movement options that aren't that impactful. I want to see some big changes to the skill tree, and it's good that they're thinking about it. Something that they've mentioned as well is the fact that they don't want a level 75 player to have like an overwhelming advantage over a new player that's low level. It's difficult. Personally, I want the skill tree to feel satisfying, rewarding when I get a new point or reach like a big node. But a lot of those big nodes just feel like they do basically nothing, or it's very unlikely they even activate in a relevant way. When asked specifically about what kind of skills they might consider buffs for, like what are they thinking about, Watkins said, speaking for myself, maybe someone out there disagrees, but the ones that are centered around melee hits and certain things like arc and other stuff like that. If I recall, back when we were starting to build a skill tree, the way the melee system was then and the way certain things would play out, is actually a little more practical. Now, when you see people are actually engaging with the game, and the distances they take things on, those have just been falling to the wayside. There's definitely others, though, that we can look at adjusting. Like some of the ones that even if you invest the full 5 points in, don't have a clear impact. So to me, that sounds pretty positive and hopeful. The last thing I want to mention as well is a quick reference to the fact that manually building loadouts is a bit of a pain, especially if you die multiple times in a row. It takes a while to put everything together and it's annoying. Having a custom loadout preset would save time on how much time you have to invest in setting up your loadout. Even something basic where you're like, okay, I've got loadout A, it always has 5 basic bandages and 3 shield recharges. Even that would save me like 10 to 15 clicks or something. Then you can get further with it and go, I always want this augment, this shield, this gun. And it just pulls it if you have it. How advanced they get with that, like say you don't have the gun, it purchases it or crafts it and then upgrades it to like the level you set. I'm not sure we would start with something super advanced like that, maybe one day. Watkins even mentioned the fact that he picks a free loadout sometimes just so he can get straight in and not have to faff in the menus. So they're very aware of that. Stating though that it's not something they're immediately bringing like the very next patch, but is a priority. So in my opinion, that sounds pretty good. There's still a lot more change that I'd like to see. It's good to hear about it, but as lots of people reference in the replies to the Twitter posts about this stuff, take this person, they're tired of hearing what might happen and what's planned. They want to see it now. In my opinion, they don't have to deliver on all this stuff immediately right now. They need to deliver on some of it regularly and soon. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about these different topics. What are you hoping for? And until next time, I've been Hollow, you've been you. Thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.